All right, so this video is going to be a little longer. So it's going to have to be on YouTube. If you guys want to watch this video, it's going to have to be on YouTube. I apologize. I'm going to do the intro here, but then you'll have to see the rest on YouTube. So I have been asked several times why I always use the example of having children as like a negative thing or a problem or an issue, because people think that children are a blessing and, things like that. So I'm going to answer that question. I have my notes on the side because I wanted to stay focused, and I know that I can be a little harsh in my delivery at times. So I will be reading from what I wrote, and this took me a while to write out in a way that I felt like the information could be received. So, all right, so I want to start by saying that this is not coming from a place of judgment. It's coming from spiritual law and divine alignment, as always. Some people truly have soul contracts to bring children here, but the problem that I've seen when I'm looking into situations is that most people are not having children from a place of alignment. They're having them from a place of mostly unhealed wounds, and that's where the harm begins, okay? So I'm going to be talking about that. So having children is not necessarily a bad thing. That's not what I'm saying. And are children a blessing? Absolutely. Every person is brought here to be a blessing of some sort, even if it's a lesson. Blessings don't necessarily always come in a positive form, right? But I am going to go over some of the things that are just not in alignment, and you will start to see that these are the the ways that most children come into the world, and therein lies the problem. And that's how and why they're not looked at the way, like by me, they're not looked at the way that you guys look at them. Okay, because I see the overall picture. I'm not just seeing, oh, cute little baby, or oh, that's my baby. Okay. So number one is using a baby as emotional medicine. So this is when someone has abandonment wounds, loneliness, or unhealed childhood trauma, and instead of healing, they have a child to fill that emptiness. Okay, this is most of the time unconscious. But what happens is they're unconsciously assigning the child the job of like never leaving them. So a perfect example is when the child is old enough to sleep independently, but the parent will continue to bed share with the child. But it's really the parent that can't handle the emotional emptiness. That's not comforting your child. That's spiritually binding the child to regulate your wounds. I realize that no matter how softly I say this, it's probably going to offend people, but it's the reality. Another thing that happens in that particular case is you get these mothers that act like their son is their spouse, and they fight with the spouse that their son gets when their son gets of age, because the child, the son, was an emotional medicine for that mother to begin with. Okay. And so when the it's time for the son to go out and be on their own, now that person's medicine is getting taken away. So these are the kind of things that will happen when you have a child out of alignment, meaning when it's coming from a place of emotional trauma. The second one is having a baby to lock in a partner. So, and this is not just women doing this. This literally happened to me with my first child, which maybe I'll do a story time later, but I'll have a baby so that this person will stay, or so that they'll be forced to commit, or so that they'll be forced to act right, or forced to be with me. So that's a child that's born into manipulation energy. Their life began as a tool for relational control. Okay. So instead of honoring that baby's soul, it's really a spiritual violation. Okay. So it's not okay to do. And typically that child is not given the type of love they deserve from either one or both parents because of the way they were brought in. So it's just not fair. Number three, accidental babies from doing the do. So in this case, there's no intention at all. There's no sacred alignment, just pure impulse. They didn't even necessarily want a child, or one of them didn't want a child and the other might have. They just wanted access to someone, either physically, mentally, emotionally, right? And now a soul is incarnating into chaos that they were never truly invited into, and definitely didn't want to be there, right? And it doesn't get better over time. That situation doesn't get better over time, okay? Number four, using the child as a replacement for your own self-worth. So people who feel unloved will have this subconscious feeling of at least this child will love me innocently, or this child will love me forever, or this child will love me unconditionally. So that's why I want a child or children. But that's not parenting. That's trapping a soul into your own emotional servitude. So they're your emotional servant. Okay, so the child will become the parent's emotional life support here on earth, before they even learn to spell their own name. Is that fair? Okay. The next one, having a child to replace a child who passed away. I realize that y'all are going to want to eat me up for this one, but I'm sorry, y'all got to hear me out. This is a decision done out of grief. Okay. Grief alone is not spiritual permission. A new baby is not a spiritual stand-in for a previous one. And that soul that is born carrying someone else's shadow, someone else's expectations, someone else's unfinished story before they even arrive is not fair. That's spiritual imprisonment. They're always going to be, oh, this is my replacement baby for the one that I lost. They deserve their own identity, okay? Not an identity based on someone else. That is a selfish reason, okay? So that's when I say most people are not creating out of alignment, they're creating from wounding, okay? And when you create from a wound, there's a child that's born already carrying a burden that their soul may not have ever even agreed to, okay? A child is not supposed to complete you. A child is not supposed to secure a relationship. A child is not supposed to heal your inner child. A child is not supposed to be your emotional therapist or your replacement or proof of your self-worth. A child is a sovereign soul that has their own destiny, and they're not an emotional bandage for your unresolved past. They're just not. If you feel triggered by this video, this is not an attack. This is not an invitation. This is an invitation for you to pause and ask yourself, did I choose motherhood or fatherhood from alignment? Or did I choose it out of fear or emptiness or attachment, right? Because soul contracts are real. And purposeful children are also real. And there are purposeful children out there, but there's more that are here from not from a place of alignment. And alignment matters, intention matters, and spiritual readiness matters. Okay, so if you're not coming from one of those places, you're not creating life, you're recreating trauma, honestly. Okay, and this is the conversation that most people want to avoid, but it's the one we need to finally start having. We need to start living in spiritual honesty, which is something that it seems like not a lot of people want to do, because every time I get too real, y'all get offended. Oh, what do you mean my child wasn't? I meant exactly what I said. Okay, so listen, real quick, since I have a few more minutes on this video, I did not myself never wanted children. But that's because even at my young age, I knew, I understood. And I didn't have any of those real life alignment desires to have them, but it was in my soul contract to get to have some. So they got here, however they got here. But my mind never changed about that. I never wanted them. But once they were here, I did my absolute best to give them the best lives that they deserved. And I did it by myself. And yes, many nights I cried. Yes, many nights I myself was depressed for a long time. And no, this video is not going to offend my children. I'm honest with my children. And not only do they know the truth and they know this story very well, they also know that I love them with all of my heart. And I've given them everything that I had, because once they were here, none of that other stuff didn't matter. I wasn't going to let them suffer for an absent father, for a mother who got put in a situation, none of that. So my children are very happy. They're all very loved, and they know the truth, which is, to me, the best thing that I could give them, because now they understand that I love them unconditionally and I put them first, their whole lives, my whole life that I've had them. So I don't know. That's pretty much it for this video. But as you can see, it's almost 10 minutes long. So yeah, it definitely is going to be, this one's going to be on YouTube.